The first time I discovered my wife's secret life was on a Tuesday afternoon in April. Nothing special about that day, just another spring day in Minneapolis, the kind where winter finally releases its grip and everyone pretends 55 degrees is practically tropical. I remember it was a Tuesday because I had a dentist appointment that got canceled last minute. A root canal postponed due to my dentist's family emergency. So instead of having my mouth numbed and drilled at 2 p.m., I found myself with an unexpected free afternoon. A small gift from the universe, I thought at the time. I decided to surprise Jennifer by coming home early, maybe suggest we take advantage of the decent weather with a walk around Lake Harriet, followed by dinner at that new farm-to-table place she'd been wanting to try. Jen and I had been married for 11 years. College sweethearts who got married right after graduation. Her with a business degree, me with engineering. We'd moved to Minnesota for my job at a medical device company, bought a Tudor-style house in a good neighborhood, and were what most people would call comfortably established. No kids yet, though not for lack of trying. After several years of disappointments, we'd started looking into adoption options. I pulled into our driveway that Tuesday and noticed Jennifer's Volvo wasn't there. Not unusual. She worked as a marketing director and often had meetings across town. I let myself in, thinking I'd catch up on some reading until she got home. That's when I saw the passport sitting on the kitchen counter. It was Jennifer's passport, left open to the identification page. But something was wrong. The name read Jennifer Wells, instead of Jennifer Carson, my last name. Her face, but not her name. I flipped through it, finding entry stamps for Canada from just 3 weeks ago. A weekend she told me she was at a marketing retreat in Chicago. My hands trembled as I set it down. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was an old passport from before we were married, but the issue date was last year, and Jennifer had never been to Canada with me. I did something then that I'd never done before in our marriage. I went through her things. Her desk drawer contained bank statements from an account I'd never seen before. A second phone was charging in her bedside table, and in the back of her closet, in a locked suitcase for which the key was kept in her jewelry box, I found photos. Jennifer with a man I'd never seen. Jennifer with 2 children, a boy and a girl, maybe 8 and 10 years old. The same man, the same children, over and over. Family photos, vacation photos, Christmas morning photos with everyone in matching pajamas. There was a lease agreement for an apartment in St. Paul, just 30 minutes from our home. Utilities under the name Jennifer Wells. School registration forms for the children, Emma and Lucas Wells, listing Jennifer and Robert Wells as parents. My wife had another family. I sat on our bedroom floor, surrounded by evidence of a life I knew nothing about, trying to make the pieces fit. Had our entire marriage been a lie? Who was Robert Wells? Were those children hers biologically, when we'd been trying unsuccessfully for years? Nothing made sense. I was still sitting there, surrounded by the artifacts of her other life, when I heard the garage door open. Jennifer was home. I didn't move, didn't try to hide what I'd found. I just waited. She came upstairs, calling my name, with the casual warmth she always used. "Alex, are you home early?" She appeared in the doorway, still in her tailored blazer and pencil skirt from work, her expression shifting from surprise to shock, to something like resignation as she took in the scene. "Who are Robert, Emma, and Lucas?" My voice was surprisingly steady. Jennifer leaned against the doorframe as if suddenly unable to support her own weight. How did you find out? Your passport was on the counter. My passport. She closed her eyes briefly. I must have taken it out when I was looking for my business cards this morning. Jennifer, my voice cracked now. Who are they? She crossed the room and sat on the edge of the bed, not looking at the evidence spread across the floor. It's complicated. Uncomplicated. She took a deep breath. Robert is my husband. Emma and Lucas are our children. The bluntness of her statement hit me like a physical blow. Your husband. I'm your husband. You're both my husbands, she said quietly. I've been married to Robert for 13 years. I married you 2 years after I married him. Bigamy. The word floated through my mind, something from crime shows or historical novels. Not something that happened in real life. Not to me. How is that even possible? I asked. Marriage licenses, social security numbers, taxes. I have 2 identities, she explained. Jennifer Wells is my birth name. Jennifer Carson is, well, I created her when I married you. I try to remember exactly what was said next, but those moments are a blur of accusations, explanations, and revelations that seem to make the world tilt on its axis. What I do remember clearly is Jennifer, or whoever she really was, telling me her story with an eerie composure, as if she'd rehearsed it many times. She'd met Robert in college, married him young. They moved to Minneapolis for his job. She wasn't happy, but stayed for the children. Then she met me at a conference in Chicago, where she'd gone alone. We connected immediately. Instead of having an affair, she created a second life, a second identity. I got a job here using my maiden name. Rented an apartment. Then, after we got serious, I'd split my time. 3 days with Robert and the kids, telling them I had a job with extensive travel. 4 days with you, telling you I had local client meetings when I was actually with them. For 11 years, the logistics alone seemed impossible. I have systems, calendars, separate phones, separate credit cards. I rent a storage unit halfway between both homes to change clothes, switch cars. But why? I asked. Why not just get divorced? Why not tell me you had children? Her expression softened. I love both of you. Different parts of me need different things. Robert is stable, reliable, the father of my children. You're passionate, spontaneous, intellectually stimulating. I couldn't choose. So you chose both. Anger finally broke through my shock, without giving either of us a choice. I'm sorry. It was the first time her voice faltered. I never meant to hurt you. Does he know about me? She shook her head. No. Do the children know? No. No one knows. I've kept everything completely separate. I stood up, needing to move, to breathe. I need you to leave. Now. Alex, please. Get out. I was shouting now, the control I'd maintained finally shattering. Get out of this house. She left, taking only her purse. I heard her Volvo start, then the sound of tires on gravel as she drove away. The next few days passed in a fog of disbelief and rage. I called in sick to work. I drank too much. I considered calling Robert Wells, whose number I now had from the documents I'd found. But what would I say? Hello, I'm your wife's other husband. On the 3rd day, there was a knock at my door. I expected Jennifer coming to beg forgiveness or collect her things. Instead, it was a man I recognized from the photos. Tall, slightly balding, with a solid build. Robert Wells. You must be Alex, he said, his voice tired. I think we need to talk. I let him in. We sat at my kitchen table, 2 men united by an unthinkable betrayal. She told me everything yesterday, he said, showed me the papers, the photos, explained how she's been living a double life for over a decade. He rubbed his hand over his face. I still can't believe it. How did you find me? She gave me your address before she left. Left? Robert nodded. She's gone. Left both of us a letter. Said she was going away to find herself or some such bullshit. He pulled an envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table. She left this for you. I haven't opened it. The letter inside was handwritten on expensive stationery. Alex, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I know I can't expect forgiveness, nor do I deserve it. What I did to you and to Robert was unforgivable. Perhaps the only honest thing I can do now is to remove myself from both your lives. Please know that my love for you was real, even if my life with you was built on lies. Jennifer, what about your children? I asked Robert after reading it. His face darkened. She left them a video message saying she needed time away to work through some grown-up problems. They're with my sister now. He seemed to deflate. How do I explain to them that their mother was living a whole separate life? That half the times she said she was on business trips, she was actually playing house with another man. We talked for hours, filling in the gaps of our respective marriages to the same woman, the timeline of her deception, the elaborate systems she'd created to maintain both households, the uncanny ability she had to keep every detail straight. She never wanted children with you, Robert asked at one point. I laughed bitterly. We were trying. Years of fertility treatments. She even had me tested to see if I was the problem. Robert winced. Jesus, the kids are the only reason I stayed. Things haven't been good between us for years. That night, Robert and I did something strange. We ordered pizza, opened some beers, and looked through photos of our lives with Jennifer, searching for clues we'd missed. In one of my wedding photos, I noticed her parents looking uncomfortable. They'd known, I realized. They'd attended both weddings. 2 weeks later, I filed for annulment rather than divorce. Our marriage had never been legal. Robert served Jennifer with divorce papers through her lawyer. She never contested either action, never appeared in court. According to her lawyer, she had moved to Europe and had no plans to return. It's been 3 years since that Tuesday in April, when a canceled root canal led to the collapse of my reality. I'm dating someone new now, Madeline, a pediatric nurse with a straightforward manner and a hatred for lies that I find comforting. Robert and I still meet occasionally for a beer. His kids are teenagers now. They know a sanitized version of what their mother did, enough to understand why she left, not enough to completely shatter their image of her. Sometimes I wonder if Jennifer, whatever her real name might be, has created yet another life somewhere. Another husband, another identity, another elaborate web of deception. I wonder if she ever thinks about the destruction she left behind, or if she's simply incapable of seeing beyond her own desires. Most of all, I wonder how well we ever truly know the people we love. Jennifer slept beside me for over a decade, shared my dreams and disappointments, knew my every habit and preference, and I never had the slightest idea that when she kissed me goodbye 3 mornings a week, she was going home to another man, another house, another life entirely. Trust, once shattered, never quite reforms the same way. It's like a broken bone that heals stronger at the break, but always carries a fault line, a place of vulnerability. With Madeline, I'm learning to trust again, but it's different now. Cautious, considered. I check her stories sometimes, just little verification tests that she never notices. I hate myself a little each time I do it, but I can't seem to stop. After all, the most devastating lies are the ones delivered with a smile by someone you love completely. If this story touched you, leave a like to show your support, and subscribe for more whispered tales of heartbreak and hope